Za hrami Mobius a Gabriel Knight 20th Anniversary Edition většina z nás vidí stát legendární designérku Jane Jensenovou. Technologicky jsou ovšem obě hry dílem týmu Phoenix Online, jehož šéfové letos, na rozdíl od Jane, zavítali na Gamescom. Nesetkat se s nimi by byl hřích a ty my na games.cz nepácháme. Chceme totiž přijít za Sierrou do herního nebe.
The Phoenix Online became quite well known thanks to the Cognition series.
Right.
But people know you more thanks to the cooperation with Jane Jensen. How this cooperation started?
I'm a big fan of Gabriel Knight, and I always wanted to get in touch with, the people from Sierra, and Jane Jensen was one of the people that I really wanted to get in touch with. We were interested in trying to do something with Gabriel Knight at the moment. And we had a meeting with Activision at the time because we were doing the Silver Lining on King's Quest. And I contacted Jane to see if there was any possibilities that, we could come together and see if we could try to get something out of Activision to be able to do Gabriel Knight. At the time that didn't work, but we met Jane, we talked about working in the future, doing something together. That's when we started talking about stuff like, maybe we can do something like a Kickstarter or something like that. And at the time, we came up with the idea of Cognition, and it seemed like a good place to start a working relationship with her, just by having her, be the story consultant of the game. So she agreed to it. We were really happy to work with her on that, and she gave us a lot of great ideas of how to shape the story of Cognition into what it became.
So she acted as a story consultant on Cognition.
Yes.
All right. And then she came up with Kickstarter campaign for her
Mobius.
CGS.
Yes.
And the first project was Mobius. I was wondered when she actually started the project. She was talking about cooperation with Russian studio, and suddenly you became on board. So, how this change happened?
I think that the thing was that the Russian studios was working on Gabriel Knight, and so because that was part of what she was doing, the message that she was working on Mobius, it sort of got a little bit muddied, and at the time we hadn't signed with her yet. We were in the process of doing the contract and signing and all of that, so it wasn't completely cemented that we were going to be the ones working with her, even though there was, we had been talking, we had helped her with the Kickstarter and all of that. But at the time we didn't know, are we going to work with her on Mobius? Are we going to work with her on Gabriel Knight? What's going to happen? And so it was very up in the air at the time, and that's pretty much why.
Do you know, was it hard to acquire rights from Activision to Gabriel Knight? Do you know something about the negotiation that took place?
I know something. It was something that Activision was sort of interested in doing, but most of the negotiations were done between Jane and Activision, and so it wasn't that hard. It was something that actually Activision started. They saw Jane. And from them, it just finally ended up in Jane's hands to release it and be able to do Gabriel Knight. Yes.
So, does it have anything to come on with the Reborn of Sierra, which was announced just a couple of days ago?
Right.
Do you know more about this announcement?
I don't. I do know that they're interested in bringing all content, new content. We're hoping that we're able to talk to them and see if hopefully we can give more life to the Gabriel Knight franchise through that.
So it would be nice.
It would be nice, yes.
I guess the possible Gabriel Knight 4 depends quite a lot on the success of this remake of the first part.
It does, and I'm hoping that this is a success because I've read the script for Gabriel Knight 4 or part of the Gabriel Knight 4 script, and I'm really excited to be able to produce that game.
So it's written already?
Part of it.
Part
of it. There's a basic story, the basic full synopsis. There's a prototype script.
Yeah. Fine.
That's done.
So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the success of Gabriel Knight remake hugely stands on the technical quality, because the scenario is the same, the locations are the same, and what's new is the music, graphics. So the heavy weight is upon you, not Jane this time.
Yeah.
So, do you feel responsibility for the future of the IP?
Yeah, no pressure. But it is a huge responsibility. We've been working a lot on getting the animations right, on getting the emotions and the dialogues right. You know, we had to re-record all the voices. The voices are being done by the same studio that does Telltale stuff.
So that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Funny thing is that, you know, like the character that plays the person that plays Gabriel, it was also the guy that played Graham for our Silver Lining project with King's Quest. So that's an interesting tidbit, and it was interesting because when Jane was looking for a Gabriel, and she kept like listening to like auditions, and so finally I was like, maybe we can do this guy, and she's, you know, he sent his audition, and she was like, wow, that's eerie. He sounds pretty much like Tim Curry, and we were looking people that were very close to the original actors, because you know, people have that in their minds, and it is important that we give them that. So, but yes, and aside from that, the game also, like, Jane has added a few new stuff, like new puzzles, new scenes, revamped cutscenes, but most of the game is it's a one-on-one. The story is the same, and a lot of it relies on what we do with it. So yes, it's a big responsibility, but I think it is definitely our best looking game yet.
Yeah, I know that some people complained regarding Mobius about the animation of the characters. So if you agree with this complaint, are you addressing it somehow now?
The whole Gabriel Knight animation have been done through mocap. Yes, it's all mocap. So the animation, the quality looks really, really good. And we've employed some techniques that help us make that animation look better. Especially, like, for example, the facials on the characters. We employed we really work on that system to be able to like show emotion and show like make sure that it looks really good. So it's a huge jump from Mobius to Gabriel Knight. The quality,
Wow. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
In a general, how is collaboration with Jane Jensen? She's a creative person. She can think up some maybe crazy gameplay mechanics which is hard to program or implement into the game. So were there situations when she came up with something and you said, no, Jane, this cannot happen?
You know, as I have a real problem because I am her producer, but at the same time I'm her #1 fan. So whenever she comes up with like a really good idea, my fan side is going like, yeah, this would be awesome, and then my producer side is like, no, this is not gonna happen. And yes, we've had that situations where I have to sit down with her and say, hey, Jane, no, this is way too much. Let's try to bring it down. And I normally, like, when I do that, I try to sit down with her and I come up with like a few other solutions, and then I let her you know, think about it and then come back to me with whatever she wants to do. She's really good at understanding the limitations of production. So we've never really had like major issues where she put like her foot down and like, I want this. No, she always understands if something is like really difficult to do and it's not worthy at the end. And then she prefers to spend that time on the things that she really wants to make sure that are in the game. And so she says, well, okay, I'll give you that, but make sure that this is in. And so we always come to a compromise.
During the Kickstarter campaign, she earned something about $450,000. Minus the fees, the other extra. She might ended up with $300,000 for the development. That's not much, really, especially for American developers, because in Europe I know that it's possible to make things cheaper a bit. So do you have another resources or?
I think that, there are a lot of Kickstarter campaigns that are still sort of up in the air, that we don't know what's going to happen to them. I think that Jane was really smart in the way that she decided, I'm going to go with a studio that has already done something that they already proved themselves. And so when she came to us with Mobius, we had already done Cognition, or we were like finishing Cognition, and we had already done the Silver Lining as well. And so we knew exactly what we had to do. I mean, we already had the engine, we had the tools. This was our bread and butter. And so, yeah, 300. The Mobius budget ended up being somewhere around $500,000. That's still not much. But I mean, we're lucky enough that we have people that are always willing to help us out, that are willing to, work for pennies in a way. Because we grew up through the Silver Lining with them, and they really like the company, they really like what we do. And sometimes it's about just making that choice. Do you want to do what you really love, or do you want to make a lot of money? Yeah. And so, I mean, as long as it is, we talk to all of them, agreeing with like, what do you need to live? Like, what is your minimum? And so, we work with a lot of people. We have VTech. He owns an art outsourcing studio in India. So a lot of the art is done over there. So that helps a lot because it reduces the costs. Yeah. So, I mean, we like pull from everywhere so that we can actually, do a production of a game that is supposed to be, a $3-4 million game at least in a short budget. So make magic. So,
well, actually, you recently started a publishing branch of your company, releasing independent adventures, including Mobius and Last Door and Quest for Infamy. I'm not asking numbers, but are the sales sufficient or as expected? Because these are small games, so I guess no one can expect anything special.
Well, I mean, it is surprising. The Last Door numbers are about the same sort of numbers as Cognition right now on Steam, and that game was, so it was a huge hit, like from the very beginning. And so, I mean, it really depends. You have to like work with developers that are, like the guys from the Last Door. They're a small team. They are going for something that is very indie, that is cheaper to produce, that is cheaper to develop. But it's a tough market right now because people every day we get more and more of like the cheaper games or like promotions, and like that helps a lot. But at the same time, it also devalues the price of the games a lot. And so, it's a balance that you have to do between offering the product that you want to offer it and making sure that it's set at the right price so that it gives you a return. And we're still sort of like going through that process, learning how to work with like Steam and placement on Steam or placement on Good Old Games, that sort of thing, so that we maximize, the income, especially not only for us but also for the developers of the games, so that they can continue doing what they're doing.
All right. Aside from publishing, of course, you are especially the development studio. So do you have any new title in works which you could talk about now or hint about? Because the Cognition is finished. I know you're working with Jane, which probably consumes you much or most of the time. But I guess still you need, or you want for sure to have something your own.
So we have actually started talking about, and it is in very early development, but we have started talking about not as much as a sequel to Cognition yet, but sort of a middle story that will happen between what would be the season 1 and a season 2. And sort of, it's based on the idea, we're titling it right now, is Cognition Science. And it's based on the idea that in the first game, you had characters like Erica Reed in Cordelia that they had powers where they could see the past, touch an object, see the past, or see the future of it. But we're expanding on that idea. You know, it's not only the characters that can can see the past and see the future. It's other type of mind powers.
Yes.
So we have now characters like the guy that can move objects with his mind, or the guy that can astral project his mind to somewhere else. And so we're playing with the idea of a group of people that come together and have these powers, and then Erica finds herself amidst this whole group and trying to lead them. So that's the concept of the story, of the idea that we're working with, because we wanted to make like small cases, and so every small case is about one of these guys and their power and how this power affected their life. So right now we're playing with we're toying with that idea. We don't know when it's gonna go into production, what's gonna happen next, what we're gonna be working on next. Right now, like you said, everything is Gabriel Knight. We have to finish this game and release it, and get it out the door. So
okay, so good luck
Thank
finishing
you.
the game. Good luck to your publishing studio, and says thank you for the interview.
thank you very much.